Hey! What is up, mortals? It is I, the Spirit of Ice, here with a new video for you today. Welcome to Part 9, Season 1 of What If Deku Became a Green Lantern. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So we begin. Chaos erupted in the USJ as all zones were engaged in a great turmoil, though the pandemonium wasn't an issue for the heroes. From the flood zone, Tokoyami was fighting off waves of villain grunts while Koda hid from them. In the landfall zone, Yayorozu, Jiro, Ashido, and Kaminari were easily repelling their assailants. And from the main plaza, All Might and Aizawa were casually one-shotting all of their enemies. It was really quite embarrassing to call themselves the League of Villains when they couldn't even harm some students. Even the 7 students still at the entrance, Uraraka, Ida, Todoroki, Asui, Hado, Hagakure, and Amajiki, were able to take on anyone who made it past their teachers, assuming 13 didn't take them out right away. It was a shame, then, that Midoriya was surging with power that he couldn't control.
Oh, heck, this is really bad!
Mirio screamed as he created a shield around Kirishima and Mineta to protect them from all the waves coming at them.
What's going on?
Mineta howled as the winds threatened to send them through the sky and possibly crush them.
Midoriya! So intense! Where the hell has he been hiding this?
The host of Adara grunted as he strained to keep his force field up.
This is a side effect that happens when Green Lanterns and Blue Lanterns are close to each other. He's never experienced before, so he can't contain his power.
The 2 boys with him immediately widened their eyes in both confusion and shock. From what they understood, Midoriya called himself a Green Lantern, which they assumed to be the hero name he wanted to have. But apparently, Mirio was calling himself the Blue Lantern, and their quirks seemed to affect each other somehow. Perhaps they were related, but if they wanted answers, they'd need to deal with this current issue.
So, what should we do? I'm not entirely sure, but we need a way for him to let his power out and get him away from me at the same time. Aion, can you hear me?
Evidently, Izuku could hear him, but his response was heartbreaking.
Mirio, help me!
He cried as he was still hovering in the center of the whirlpool. He hadn't moved an inch in fear of the possibility that the shockwaves would grow even more powerful if he did. The problem was, he wouldn't return to normal until Adara got far enough away, and Mirio was too busy shielding his friends to get away from him.
It's fine! We'll find a way to help you!
Togata yelled back.
Do either of you have any ideas?
Surprisingly, the gray-haired boy was the one who had an answer.
You and Midoriya have the same powers, right?
The blonde boy shook his head.
Our powers are similar, but I'm mainly focused on healing things. I can't even make constructs without his green energy. The same green energy he's expelling right now, that you used to grab Kirishima and me a minute ago?
Oh, their Cobalt classmate facepalmed.
I'm an idiot! How can I not realize that? Adara just said that.
He laughed out as he realized his stupidity.
Yes, I did just tell you, Mirio. Now please, I have faith that you can save Izuku,
his entity requested of him. The upperclassman nodded, though his juniors assumed it was directed at him.
Okay, I'm gonna drop the shield and fly up. You 2 need to stay low and get away while I create an umbrella over you.
They both nodded as they prepared to gun it the second they could feel the wind in their faces.
1, 2, 3, go!
With a great howl, Mirio dropped the bubble barrier around them and jetted into the air. To their credit, Kirishima and Mineta raced back to the main area, the waves and wind nipping at their heels. Fortunately, Mirio was able to construct 2 great umbrellas to cover the both of them as they ran. And back in the main plaza, Shigaraki was getting agitated at the lack of progress on their mission.
What the hell's happening here? All Might was supposed to be weaker after his fight with Sensei. At this rate, he might have to use that sweet-talking snake to—
Surrender now, villain, or taste the utter defeat that will come to you by my hand.
All Might interjected as he skidded to a stop right in front of the young leader.
Your Nomu guy is laying on the ground back there, contemplating his life choices, which leaves you all alone.
The symbol of peace smirked.
Ah!
The boy groaned as he rolled his head back in a melodramatic fashion.
First, you have the nerve to be fully healed in spite of what Sensei said. Then you beat the Nomu, and I don't even know what these earthquakes are. Seriously, what is causing those earthquakes? You know what? Kurokiri, call Sensei. I don't even care anymore. This damn lever has a team of hackers.
The Mistman nodded.
Of course, Tomura.
He started to apparate himself away, presumably to call this Sensei character. There's no need for that. I was watching you from Nomu's eyes, and took action the second I saw the green and blue lanterns were together. From above them a man's voice rang out, striking terror in all that heard it.
No, it can't be.
All Might whispered as soon as he heard the voice. He knew who that voice belonged to, and that person was supposed to be dead.
Sensei, I didn't expect you to show up so quickly.
Sensei chuckled. There's no need to be nervous, Tomura. You were simply put in an unwinnable situation from the start here. I was a fool to think that the green and blue lanterns would be separated. It's only natural that the school would place them together as soon as possible. And I should have guessed that All Might would be healed by the blue light of hope. Not to mention their proximity is causing Ion's ring to surge out of control, which is the cause of these tremors. But you needn't worry. I can handle everything now, starting with my old enemy.
How could this be? Toshinori demanded as he looked up. How are you still alive, all for one?
Donning a terrifying mask and holding an orange lantern in a hand adorned with an orange ring, and covered entirely by an orange glow, All for One smiled at his supposed killer. It's been a long time, All Might. I see you're holding up better than you should be, as a result of Sir Night Eye's protege, Mirio Togata, wasn't it?
How did you survive?
Well, I suppose it was what you might call fate. My face was destroyed, my body dying, and all I could think was to ask why I was on death's door. When I was getting surgery, I had to utilize so many quirks just to stay on this floating rock. For 5 years, I was in a suboptimal condition, incapable of stepping outside for extended periods of time without risking death. But then I found my greatest supporter, the bald man said as he held up his orange lantern. Orphidian and I, we have a symbiotic relationship, superior to that of the other entities. Do you know just how powerful I am now? How easy it is to get the quirks that I want now, ever since I discovered this lantern on one of the very few outings I take. But I shouldn't call it fortune. That would be disrespectful to you, wouldn't it? Oh, great scaled one. The light emanating from the lantern glowed brighter, as if it was responding to its holder's question. It seemed as if it was emitting a noise, though everyone else was too far away to tell. Of course, my apologies for disrespecting you. Please, allow me to right this wrong by indulging in our desires. Pick any quirk, no matter how impractical, and I'll take them for you. I'll even let you possess me for a whole 12 hours so you can try them out.
My God, Aizawa muttered as he raced to the scene. Can he actually steal quirks?
All Might nodded.
Yes, that's what his quirk is. The power to steal power. It's literally the name of his quirk. So he's a narcissist that names himself after his own ability. And he has one of those lantern rings and entities. First our students, now a high-profile villain. Forgive me if this sounds racist or specious, but aliens are invading our countries these days. Hell, didn't you say that there was a red one a year ago? Did you say something? The orange ring wielder asked as he turned his sights back to them, freezing them in place with his gaze alone. I understand why you two would be afraid, but how are you even going to protect your students like this? All Might inquired as he looked to the entrance to find the remaining 6 students and Miss 13 all petrified in terror. At the moment, All Might and Aizawa both realized how dire their situation was. Since the big 3 and All Might were here, they initially stopped taking this invasion seriously once they realized how easily dispatched the villains were. But now that All for One had resurfaced, today of all days, along with a new lantern ring to boot, they realized how terminally screwed they were. No one at UA was aware of the danger they were in, and they had no way to contact them. They were negligent, and now their students were in grave danger.
This video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN allows you to change your IP address, making it harder to track and securing your privacy. In addition to providing safe passage through the internet, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services like Disney+. If you are watching from the United States, you won't be able to watch any of the MCU or Sony Spider-Man movies. But by switching your location to Japan, you can access them whenever you want. Check out the link in the description to get 3 extra months when you purchase the 12-month subscription plan that costs $99.99 a year. This deal is for a limited time. And thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video.
As Nejire and Tamaki witnessed the exchange between All Might and what they thought was Satan himself, they were incapable of moving a muscle. They were just frozen in place, which wasn't helped by the demon's thinly veiled threat, mocking them. They knew they needed to move, needed to help 13, needed to protect their underclassmen. But their bodies wouldn't budge an inch, until Tamaki's did.
Nejire, we have to move.
The black-haired member of the Big 3, Tamaki, whispered as he turned his face ever so slightly to his friend. She was barely able to force out the response,
How can you move? I'm familiar with fear. It's not as bad as I thought it was.
Nejire didn't bother wasting her energy on coming up with a response. Instead, she concentrated on moving her body, bit by bit. It was hard, but she was able to wiggle her fingers and move her wrists. With how tedious it was, she knew that she would be useless in a fight, but that didn't mean she would give up. In front of her, Ida, Asui, Uraraka, Ashido, and Todoroki were all paralyzed due to their survival instincts forcing them still. They could maintain coherent thoughts, but they were incapable of perambulating. They were completely defenseless here. Do you not see, All Might? Oh, sorry. Do you prefer Toshinori Yagi? The host of Orphidian took great delight in seeing the distressed face of his sworn enemy as he said his real name. It was one of the many perks of having an ancient entity reside within you, though he could imagine the green and blue children were put off by that, inexperienced as they were. All Might, what do we do here? Where are Togeda and Midoriya? Aizawa asked in a hushed tone. But just as he was asking about the whereabouts of his students, something unexpected happened.
We're almost there! Come on, Kirishima! I see the plaza! Run for it!
As if on cue, Mineta and Kirishima came running through the forest that led to the shipwreck zone, coincidentally the source of all the terrors, straight at the teachers and villain leaders. And even more surprisingly, they were shielded by a pair of blue umbrellas that were starting to degrade into light particles. Even the quiet Tamura decided to comment on it, spouting out a raspy,
"What the heck is that?"
And then All for One started falling.
Airwalk!
He shouted before he resumed hovering, this time at a lower altitude than before.
Sensei! What was that? What happened?
The hand-covered villain cried out. The quirk thief groaned as he regained his bearings.
So, we meet at last, Blue Lantern. ODM smash!
Mirio cried as he planted his fist against AFO's mask, cracking it ever so slightly and throwing the villain back.
What the hell did that brat just do? Sensei!
Tamura snarled in outrage as he saw the infallible god of greed and desire be harmed by a mere student, even if that student seemed to have a calming aura about him.
Young Mirio!
All Might cried out with joy and relief. If they were here, then that meant they had escaped, though he didn't see young Midoriya with them. He had hoped that they had been transported together, but it seemed as if that wasn't the case.
Ion's still in the shipwreck zone. The power boost Adara described is way more potent than we thought, and he got compromised there. I need to leave ASAP. So please, help me in defeating this guy. Look out!
While both sides had all been standing there, they had all forgotten about the reason for this attack: to kill All Might using the Nomu. And while All Might and Shigaraki assumed he had beaten the creature, neither one of them took into account that it had a healing factor. All Might because he didn't know it had multiple quirks, and Tamura because of his childish nature. But now it was back for revenge as it sucker-punched All Might from behind, the teacher's body plowing through the air and soaring past Shiggy and Giri, and landing with an audible crash.
Yes! Go, Nomu!
The man-child exclaimed with joy as he threw his hands out.
Kill All Might and Kurogiri! Let's take out Eraserhead before we help Sensei with the blonde airhead up there!
With a smirk, Tamura cracked his knuckles and charged at Shota, who responded by activating his quirk and throwing a scarf at them. Back at the shipwreck zone, the torchbearer of the Green Lanterns found his body returning to normal as the excess energy building up inside him dissipated. And as he moved his body around, he couldn't help but cry.
Why are you crying? You are unharmed, and Mirio shielded Minoru and Ejiro. The worst that happened was the tremors. And Mirio left before they became too severe. It is unlikely that anyone was seriously hurt,
Ion said in an attempt to calm him down.
I understand that, but the power was horrifying. I thought I would break the entire facility apart if I moved the wrong way.
But you didn't. It is all fine now. But there are more pressing issues too.
Why did it surge like that?
Izuku demanded as he wiped his tears away with his hands.
I know the blue and green lights enhance each other, but...
My apologies. That was my own power, amplified by Adara herself. We haven't been together like that for millennia, so I had forgotten what it was like. We normally use the rings to house ourselves instead of hiding our natural power, which means that our power leaks out slightly. Ordinarily, it is harmless, but we were careless. As long as we are cautious next time, it won't happen again. Now please, go save your classmates. Without you nearby, Mirio can't make constructs, and Orphidian has arrived here. He is suppressed by the blue light, but everyone is in grave danger with him here. If you work with Mirio, you can drive him back, or you can use my true power, without the boost from Adara. Regardless, you can only drive him back.
I understand.
Izuku Midoriya.
No, the Green Lantern said as he cleaned his face off and flew off to the central plaza. After all, it was one thing to get scared of your power when it was so dangerous, but it was another thing to sit idly by while that power could be used to save lives. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few things I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. We the Celestials' My Hero Academia and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Fourthly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everybody involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. And lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members 16 years or older to join our crew. You can sign up for whatever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that is it for us for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Once again, I am the Spirit of Ice telling all of you to have a great day.